Let's talk about developing your strategic content plan for social media. Adopting every social channel and publishing whatever content you feel like won't deliver business results. It's when you approach your social media content strategically that you'll see the most success. Your success on social media depends on creating a sensible strategy for your content, one that fits well with your resources and your goals. This is especially important if you do not have a full-time team of social media experts at your disposal, because with fewer resources, you'll need to be even more strategic with what you publish and on which channels. So, how do you develop a strong content strategy for social media that will bring success to your business? Let's go through a simple step-by-step process for developing a strategic content plan. The first step is to figure out what has worked well for you in the past. Which social media channels has your target audience engaged with the most? What types of content have performed best for views, click-throughs, and comments? Conduct a content audit of your social media channels to understand what your audience responds to best. In your content audit, look at social networks, content types, and which social campaigns are seeing a return on investment. To gather your data, you can either use a social analytics tool, like the ones we've listed here, which can aggregate all that data, definitely the easiest option, or you can manually pull the data from each channel analytics tabs and compile it yourself.
Brands should always be thinking about who their target market is, where they live, and how they're consuming that content. So whether you're a B2B marketer or a B2C marketer, think about what platform is best for you. Secondly, how are they consuming that content? Are they consuming it on the go? Are they consuming it while they're leaning forward, taking a break from work? Or are they consuming it when they're laying back at the end of the day and they're consuming longer form content?
To do your audit, use a spreadsheet to record how your content has performed so far, with a tab for each individual social media channel. Once you have a spreadsheet set up, go into each channel tab and record things like engagement metrics, publishing metrics, audience demographics, referral traffic, and any metrics that are channel specific, like retweets on Twitter. Make sure you measure not just the raw numbers, but also percentage change from the previous month or year. To get an even better picture of what types of content perform well, look through and identify the top performing posts for each channel. You can take this a step further by categorizing these top posts by post type: educational, informational posts, video posts, live video posts, image and GIF posts, promotional posts, and entertainment posts. That's right, really dig in at the post level to figure out which types of content you should add to your plan for each social channel. If your video posts get the most shares on Facebook, for example, then you really want to experiment with publishing more video posts. If your promotional posts get more clicks and shares on LinkedIn than they do on other social channels, then you might want to think about scaling them back everywhere else but LinkedIn. If your competitors are seeing success with live video and you haven't really tried live video yet, then you might want to test it out on different channels to see how your audience responds. Don't be afraid to play.
So our bookstore has 3 different social media platforms that we're on: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we try to keep the same brand identity across all of those. We are a bookstore. We're about books. We're about customers. We're about readers and authors. But we do have different audiences, and so we try to cater to that. Our Facebook is mostly concentrated on letting people know our upcoming events. That's where we can put the most information. You don't really have a word limit. It's not as visual though. So for Instagram, we try to post, beautiful images of the books. You don't want to judge a book by the cover, but sometimes we do. It is part of marketing. So that's a really good place for us to kind of, show off our store and show off the different authors and customers who are coming through. And for Twitter, it's a pretty quick bite. We want to let people know upcoming events, if something is happening off the cuff that we weren't expecting, or to maybe respond to a publisher or to an author to kind of get that interaction and keep our names out there. So we do sort of try and keep a consistent image and at least a consistent identity across all of those, but we do understand that they take more time if you're doing a big visual presentation, whereas Twitter, it's easy, obviously, to just hop on and say, hey, this author's just dropped by the store to sign books, come and grab a copy.
Knowing which types of content performs well on each channel will be key to understanding what you should be doing more of and less of. If you're missing any of these post types in your strategy, like live video, for example, then think about how you can experiment with it in the future.
I love video, and the video makes a huge difference in our social media marketing effort. I think the best way to connect with others is face-to-face communication. Nothing can replace face-to-face. The second best way is video. Video really shows our personality in the social media, in the marketing space. We all prefer to do business with human beings. We don't just connect with the logo, we connect with others as humans. So video is a great way to humanize who we are, to humanize our brand, to humanize our message. And that human connection and level up the emotion, and many of our purchase decisions are emotional decisions. So really use video to humanize what you do.
All right, now that you've done a full audit of your social content and channels, I want you to think carefully about your goals and your buyer personas. Start with your goals. What do you hope to get out of your social media efforts? Are you trying to grow your audience? Increase traffic to your blog or website? If you find that you don't have any specific goals yet for social, then the audit you perform will help you establish a benchmark for certain metrics that you can then develop new goals and work toward them. Now, who are your buyer personas? How are they using each social network? What are they talking about? What are they interested in learning? Are you already engaging with them in ways that resonate with them? If you don't have business goals and buyer personas in mind as you're developing content and social campaigns, then you probably aren't using social as efficiently as you could be. So you're creating your plan to achieve those goals and connect with those buyer personas. Next, do research on how your competitors are using social media. How many followers do they have compared to you on each channel? How is their content performing? From the metrics you can see at least. Which types of content are performing best for them? How are they engaging with their followers? By looking at your competition, you get a sense of how you stack up and where you might have gaps that you'll need to close in your own strategy. Building a sensible content strategy takes a lot of research and analysis of not only your social content, but also your competitors' content. Once you've done this research and analysis, you can start to piece together a plan. Next, consider your resources. Who's writing and designing content for social media right now? Do you have a team dedicated to social media who can create great copy, images, GIFs, and videos? Or are your resources kind of limited and you'll have to rely on help from folks within your organization or a third-party agency? Who's going to actually press publish on these posts?
At Refinery, when we're developing content, we try to develop more content that's evergreen and has a long shelf life. We still address the news, but typically not in types of content that would require a lot of resources. Instagram stories or a feed asset that's just text on screen is a really good place to lean into something that's super trending because it's so quickly to just pull out and make on your phone. But content that requires like a host and a studio and multiple cameras, we try to keep that content more in the evergreen space so it has a long shelf life, even if it's something that is topical like Thanksgiving content or spring break content. We know we'll be able to use it every year if we invest resources into it to make it high production value.
Think about the size of your team. Your content plan will look different if you're a 1 or 2 person social media team than if you have a team of 5 or more people. If you feel like you're strapped for resources, then you might want to prioritize your top social channels over others. Think back to your content audit and identify which channels have performed the best for you in the past. And think about prioritizing those channels. Finally, always be testing your content, no matter how big or small your team is. Testing and playing around with different messaging and content types is the only way to learn what really resonates with your audience. Make sure experimentation is ingrained in your strategic plan.
Some interesting things that brands can do to stay nimble are to experiment when new platforms come out. Brands like ESPN and the NBA and even the Washington Post are experimenting on new platforms like LinkedIn. I also think using a multi-channel approach can be very beneficial for helping brands to learn what works. Casper is actually doing this. Casper mattresses. They've developed a Casper sleep channel using Spotify and YouTube and IGTV. So continuing to test and learn is crucial to brands staying nimble in this changing environment.
Now, once you have a really good idea of which social channels you want to prioritize and which types of content you want to post on each channel, it's time to build out a content calendar that you can use to prep content for upcoming weeks and months. And when you actually go to create your content, make sure you're following your brand guidelines for content creation if you have them. And finally, don't be afraid to get creative with your social media content. One of the biggest challenges people face in social media today is that they have trouble being heard above all the noise. And creativity can help you stand out. Denny's, a popular American restaurant chain, is a great example of a brand that could have blended in on social media, but chose to stand out as a part of their social strategy. There are a lot of brands out there like Denny's that have figured out how to stand out and get creative in a way that really resonates with their audience. Building a social media strategy for each channel takes a lot of time, research, and careful planning. But the more that you can base your content plan on what's worked in the past, on your specific business goals and buyer personas, on competitive research, and on continual experimentation, the more your social media efforts will pay off.